Welcome to the N1 Fitness Podcast. I'm your host, Marcus Sadu, and today we're going to be chatting about the stress and weight gain relationship. Now, a lot of folks have experienced a stressful time or life event and in turn packed on a few pounds or more than a few pounds. And similarly, plenty of folks have gone through similar life stressors and lost weight. So what exactly is going on here? How are some folks losing weight in response to stress while others are gaining weight when stressors ramp up in their lives? In order to parse this out effectively, we need to first identify what are the causative factors in weight gain and weight loss. Fortunately, the only answer to that question, when you really boil it down to brass tacks, is energy, aka calories. Much like your bank account, if you spend more money than you make, you're going to go into the red. On the other hand, if you make more than you spend, you're going to go into the green and build up your savings. The exact same concept applies to your body in regards to weight. If you expend more calories than you take in, you're going to lose weight. And if you expend fewer calories than you take in, you are going to gain weight. But how does stress tie in here? Stress itself does not contain energy, and therefore in a vacuum, stress cannot by definition cause weight gain or weight loss. However, our response to perceived stress can impact the energy in and energy out equation a lot. How this typically plays out is, some folks find that when their stress levels increase, so does their appetite and desire for calorie-dense foods. And it turns out that other folks find the exact opposite. When their stress levels ramp up, they don't even want to think about food because it might make them nauseous. And therefore, their appetite and calorie intake decreases. This is the explanation for why some folks gain weight when stress is up and other folks lose weight when their life stressors increase. It's behavior-based in regards to calorie consumption because, like we just chatted about, the only thing that can cause weight gain or weight loss is energy flux. Time, of course, plays a role because when stress levels increase, it's often coupled with more responsibility and therefore less time to do things like cook, go for walks, prioritize sleep, etc. But time doesn't contain energy either. So everything circles back in one way or another to energy intake and expenditure. Now, I'm going to gear this episode towards the folks that tend to gain weight when life stressors increase because that's the majority. So the question becomes, how do we maintain our healthful habits no matter what is going on externally, right? That's the most important question because if how we're looking, feeling, and performing is fully dependent on external factors, we're giving up our power. So let's look into taking it back. Let's say that you're working 40 hours per week, you're making the vast majority of your own meals, you're hitting 10,000 steps per day and sleeping 8 hours per night. You're killing it. And then all of a sudden your busy season at work kicks up and your hours increase from 40 per week to 60. Being that your work hours have increased, your free time has now decreased and your stress has likely ticked up as well as a result of this setup. Now, being that you're under tighter time constraints, you've got some choices to make. You've now got to go down your list of priorities and scale back 20 hours worth of time per week to make up for that additional 20 hours of additional work. Typically, the first thing that gets nixed is cooking, because now that we can outsource meal prep incredibly easily via eating out at restaurants, that's an easy time saver. However, the trade-off is you're no longer making the vast majority of your meals, and we know that restaurant meals are both not as healthy as home-cooked meals in general, and they're far more calorie dense. Meaning, we just tip the energy equation towards weight gain due to an increase in calories consumed. The second thing to go is most likely steps or workouts and or sleep. So in the case of steps or workouts, we've got less time dedicated towards moving, which by definition means more time sitting and sedentary, and therefore we tip the energy equation towards weight gain again. Maybe our sleep goes from 8 hours per night to 6.5 hours per night, and interestingly, we actually burn more calories being awake than we do being asleep. So technically, less sleep would tip the energy equation to favor weight loss very slightly. However, the research is incredibly clear on this, and it shows that when we're underslept, we actually make poorer food decisions and consume more calories. So technically, we're going to burn a small amount of additional calories via less hours sleeping. However, we're most likely going to compensate and then some via more calorie-dense food choices, and overall, that's going to tip the energy equation towards weight gain again. So, what caused weight gain in this situation? It's so easy to point the finger at stress. However, it was not stress because, again, stress doesn't contain any energy. However, how we respond to said stress or restricted time and how our habits and behavior change as a result can absolutely lead to weight gain. Now let's look at this same situation with a bit of a different approach, a compensatory approach that works with the change in your circumstances to the best of your ability. We mentioned that the first thing to get nixed when your work hours bumped up and stress increased was cooking. So instead of grabbing things on the go from restaurants, you decide that you're going to move to a batch cooking setup and make all of your own meals for the week on a Sunday so you don't actually tip the scale in the weight gain direction. You keep it the same because your eating habits are in fact the same. Now, if you're against the Sunday batch cooking idea and you have the means to do so, you could always employ a meal prep service instead or something like it. Secondly, you could decide to decrease your general movement via steps during the week and make up the difference over the weekend. So instead of hitting 10K per day every day, you reduce your daily step count Monday to Friday to 8,000, and then you commit to hitting 15K on both Saturday and Sunday. Again, this would not tip the equation in the weight gain direction because you're keeping your movement constant over the course of a week as a whole. Lastly, you decide that you're going to watch one less show per night in order to continue to get your 8 hours of sleep on a nightly basis, which then has you feel better and make better food decisions in general, which again does not tip the energy equation towards weight gain, and you're going to feel and perform a lot better because you're getting the rest that you need. Now, let's be honest, keeping your healthy habits in place while working an additional 20 hours per week is very difficult. It's more difficult than it was when you were working 20 fewer hours per week because you've just got less time, and therefore the time that you do have outside of work has to be managed much more effectively. So this all comes down to priority management. The key idea here is instead of looking for reasons why you can't, look and implement ways in which you can. For example, if an unexpected stressor pops up, it's so easy to throw your hands up in the air and say, fuck it, I've got a great excuse now, everything is going to go to shit, versus looking at your situation, getting your priorities super straight, and then compromising where need be and making the best of your circumstances. And that doesn't mean that everything has to stay exactly the same or perfect, right? If your eating slips a bit and your steps slip a bit and so do your workouts, maybe even your sleep too, it's okay because staying on track 75 to 80% is far better than letting everything fall off, going back to zero, and then needing to make up so much ground when your external circumstances are back to where they were. Just as a weird thought experiment, how fucked up would it be if stress literally caused weight gain? That would mean that the people that say worry the most would be the most overweight, because if you could just think about things that stress you out on loop, you'd watch your body fat accumulate without putting anything in your mouth. That would be wild. It's also interesting how this whole stress causes weight gain idea only exists in areas of the world where food is incredibly abundant. That's curious, right? Not having enough food to eat, aka starvation, is a hugely stressful situation, and therefore if stress caused weight gain, no one in the world would ever starve because folks that didn't have enough food could just think and worry energy onto their bodies and therefore not need to eat, and obviously that isn't the case. Nothing can cause weight gain except for changes in the energy equation that we touched on, meaning as long as you keep your habits consistent, no matter what life throws your way, you're going to be able to keep your weight in check and stay as healthy as you possibly can, given your priorities and circumstances. Is it tougher when your time is limited? You're feeling all sorts of uncomfortable feelings and life doesn't seem fair? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that it's not possible. Also, we know that healthy humans are more resilient to life stressors in general than unhealthy humans. And COVID-19 has been a very clear indicator of that because the elderly, as well as folks with comorbidities, like being overweight, having diabetes, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune complications, etc., fare far worse because their baseline level of health is lower, and therefore they've got less wiggle room in regards to fighting off infections. So what this means is, if you stay as healthy as possible while you're going through a stressful situation or time in your life, you're going to handle that situation so much better and so much more effectively. Also, you're not going to dig yourself into a hole that's going to be hard to get out of after that stressor settles, meaning it's way easier to keep up than it is to catch up. So does stress itself cause weight gain? No, that's not physiologically possible. Can how we respond to stress cause weight gain? 100%. But fortunately, you get to choose how you respond, which is amazing news. If you're interested in applying for one-on-one nutritional coaching and or workout design with me, you can click the link in the description below or head on over to n1fitness.com/coaching. Follow me up on Instagram at n1fitness and feel free to friend me on Facebook at Marcus Sadhu. And lastly, be sure to hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're using. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the next episode. See ya.